This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. Again, I'm talking about the byproduct of Donald Trump being a lot of the dummies who have been elevated to positions of power in the United States. Marjorie Taylor Greene being chief, maybe chief among them. The know-nothing, do-nothing, rabble-rouser, agent of chaos, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who went on to her co-conspirator, her Insurrection co-conspirator show, Steve Bannon's show, and made a bunch of wacky claims. She's talking about blueing hoping that thing catches on, acting as though Democrats are in some kind of a conspiracy. They're believing in conspiracy theories when she's the one who believes that Jews put satellites in space to fire lasers on California to create wildfires. A real thing she believed and posted about. Here's the post. Nonsense. Look, I last week, maybe it was Monday, earlier this week, I talked about the reporting from the Rolling Stone that there were dozens of planning meetings. Two people have flipped, and they're cooperating with the committee, and hopefully cooperating with the Justice Department. But that there were dozens of meetings these two people were in the planning and the execution of the insurrection. Marjorie Taylor Greene being among them. And in this clip, she effectively says that the Declaration of Independence, which is not a governing document, but the Declaration of Independence is what justifies what she refers to as a riot at the Capitol, not an insurrection or a failed coup attempt. But she is claiming that the Declaration of Independence is what instructs people to overthrow the United States government. Watch this. It's 1 minute and 28 seconds. We'll put the timer up in case you've already seen it. We'll talk about it on the other side.
These are the things that are turning these independent voters, but they need to look harder. They need to look harder at the lies of Blue Anon, because Blue Anon, the dangerous media, the Democrat media that is so divisive and would do anything to cause someone like me to be killed or someone like you, Steve, to be killed because of the Democrat lies about us and about January 6th. You see, they're the real problem in the country, and I hope that these independent voters, these people that are starting to wake up, I hope they wake up to these lies, because they're telling terrible things about us, things that are not true, and things about other Republicans that are not true, and innocent people that were at the Capitol on January 6th. But the real truth is the communist revolution that the Democrats funded and waged every single day and every single night in American cities all across our country. You see, that was an attack on innocent American people, whereas January 6th was just a riot at the Capitol. And if you think about what our Declaration of Independence says, it says to overthrow tyrants. So there's a clear difference between January 6th and the Marxist communist revolution that Antifa, BLM, Democrat ground troops waged on the American people in 2020. But this selfish, self-righteous Congress that only serves itself refuses to talk about the people. All they want to talk about is the riot on January 6th. And I'm fed up with it. I'm sick of it. And I'm tired of their lies.
So let's talk about all this nonsense. One, she is a dummy's dummy. Someone who had to come out and apologize a couple months ago about her lack of understanding of what took place during the Holocaust and why exactly it was bad to compare mask mandates to the systematic killing, the genocide of millions of Jews and gays and undesirables to the Nazis. Stupid. So why would anyone go to her for knowledge and understanding about the Declaration of Independence? There's a couple things I want to talk about related to that. One, there is a line in the Declaration of Independence written by Thomas Jefferson, the slave Thomas Jefferson. That one of the justifications for the Declaration of Independence, declaring ourselves independent from Great Britain, was that he has excited domestic insurrections among us. And then he goes on with a bunch of racist nonsense about the indigenous population here on the continent. But that one of the reasons, one of the justifications to declare ourselves independent of Britain, of the crown, was that the king has excited insurrectionists, domestic insurrectionists. She didn't talk about that, though. Her God King, her Messiah, Donald Trump, did indeed incite domestic insurrectionists among us. That was cause for independence from the crown. She's not taking that to account. But I want to read a couple paragraphs from the Declaration of Independence to put this in context. Because the Declaration of Independence and declaring ourselves our own country was because of, as Thomas Jefferson talked about in the Declaration, because of losing patience that we have tried to redress our government. We have made attempts over the course of more than a generation, and we're not being listened to. So we're fed up and we're going to do this on our own. It wasn't because Joe Biden had been elected, because a new president had been elected, not even having taken office yet, and we're gonna have an insurrection. We're gonna have a revolution to overthrow a tyrant who hadn't even been put into office yet. They had no idea what was to take place. It doesn't give any appreciation to the context of history and the actual text of the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their powers, their just powers, from the consent of the governed. And then here is where it talks about that time thing. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Listen, an insurrection, a declaration of independence, is to create a new form of government. It's not to install the former president who lost an election. It's to scrap the Constitution and start over. But she has no understanding of history or the context with which this document was written. She doesn't even understand more modern history, the Holocaust. Why would we expect Marjorie Taylor Greene, dum-dum extraordinaire, to have any insight into a document that was written in the 18th century? Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. None of this was accomplished by the insurrection. None of this is justified. None of that was justified by this document. They're talking about a new government, not a new president. And then finally here, such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. To alter the systems of government. This is not about one particular leader. This was about an unacceptable form of government that they no longer wanted to take part in. That's not what the insurrection at the Capitol was about. That was about overturning a free and fair election. Overthrowing a particular man who was coming into office. A failed coup attempt. If you believe that if they were successful, they would have rewritten the Constitution and entered into a new system of government, you're out of your mind. You're not thinking clearly if that's what you believe. All they wanted was for Donald Trump to remain president. And Marjorie Taylor Greene and her insurrection co-conspirator, she might not know, but Steve Bannon well knows. Anyway, idiots. I'd love to know what you think about these clowns. You can call, leave me a brief voicemail, 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me daily at dollemore.com. I'd absolutely love to hear from you. I'd absolutely also love to have you follow me on social media. Connect with me there. That is a sometimes good time, sometimes not. And I would ask that you consider, if I bring you value, to support my work here. If you're in a financial position to do so, it's an ease. Not that if you have to budget it in, I don't want you to stress yourself out. But if it's easy, consider it. You can become a channel member, click on the join button below, or you can head on over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. I sure do love you guys. I appreciate you very much. I'll see you next time. Until I do, be genuine. Take care of one another.